Welcome everyone to HonorTube. I am back with another review of Ring of Honor Television, episode 523. They had two matches. The first match was PJ Black versus Brian Johnson in a pure rules match. And then they had a four-corner survival match for a shot at the Ring of Honor World title between Brody King, Shane Taylor, Jay Lethal, and Kenny King. Excuse me. It was a good episode. I thought what I really liked about this episode, there's a lot more promos in this episode, some backstage interviews with Brian Zane. There was a little history feature before the Brian Johnson and PJ Black match that I liked. What's been kind of a negative, in my opinion, when I was watching these most recent shows, is sometimes it's just mostly just wrestling, and that's great. You know, like wrestling is a very important part of the television show. That's what we kind of see in ring action. Ring of Honor is all about, match quality. It's always been like that throughout the history of the promotion, and it is important to have a lot of ring time on your television show. You don't want a very talky show, but to get these personalities over, you need some promos, and I thought this show did a great job with, obviously promos for all the guys in the four-way match, the vignette, like I talked about with PJ Black and Brian Johnson, and I'll talk about the interview they did later with Brian Zane. So I really enjoyed this. And also they were hyping up their Tuesday YouTube show week by week. There's a match with Ryan Mooney and Eli Isom, and those promos are very strong. Eli Isom, was his was okay, a little more low key, but he kind of got my attention towards the end of it. But that Ryan Mooney kid, man, that kid can talk. So I really enjoyed that promo. That his part of the promo really made me interested in seeing that match tomorrow, which I will be covering here on HonorTube. So let's start with the first match. It's a pure rules match. Brian Johnson, PJ Black. PJ Black was a mentor to Brian Johnson, so there's that story going into the match. Brian Johnson has entered into the pure division, and he cheated to win the gauntlet match last week, and you can hear my review of that gauntlet match on HonorTube. And this match was a good match. It started off with PJ Black kind of schooling Brian Johnson, frustrating Brian Johnson. I thought they did a great job of jaw-jacking in that match. And, it was from my buddies from on the Fight Game Media Patreon and podcast network, Mike Gilbert and JD Leva on Brace for Impact. They were talking about, they kind of broke in and talked about some Ring of Honor. And JD was saying he watched it and kind of like break up some time, watched some Ring of Honor television. And though Ricky Bonney and Caprice Coma do a great job, it's just eerily silent, and it's an eerie kind of show. And I get that, I get that with Ring of Honor sometimes. Sometimes it's just kind of too quiet, and because there's no fans there, there's no crowd sweetening. Every once in a while there'll be seconds there to kind of give some atmosphere, but most of the time there's not. Well, at least Brian Johnson, he's going to be yapping in the match. So he adds that atmosphere, his own atmosphere in the match. PJ Black was doing some talking. He's not the most charismatic guy, but you got the point across by his body language and what they're trying to do. I thought this match was just lacking some intensity, especially when Brian Johnson got frustrated. I know PJ Black, he took most of the match, which I figured he was going to lose because Brian Johnson is the one that they are pushing within this division. But I wanted to see kind of Brian Johnson kind of turn it up after being frustrated. And I want to see PJ Black kind of get more intensity to his stuff. It just seemed like they're like one level the whole match, right? There was some rope break stuff. Brian Johnson really ran through a lot of his rope breaks. At one point, PJ Black got him in that kind of I forget what you call it, that kind of we had the guy in like a reverse crab, his arms bent back as well, and you rock him back and forth. I forget the name of that the lucha name for that, but he had the guy locked in a submission, and he just gets him closer to the rope, so he like puts him under the bottom rope, so he has to use a rope break. But like if you have a submission and the guy's arms are tied up, his legs are tied up, like wouldn't you just try to go for the win with the submission instead of the rope break? That's why sometimes they get caught up with the rope break stuff, and I get it. It's a cool feature about the pure matches, but if a guy has a legit submission hold, and a submission hold that looks like this one where a guy there's no way for him to get to the ropes unless you actually put him there, right? Or let go of the hold. So it just was kind of dumb, and I really didn't like that part of the match. The finish was Brian Johnson got his foot on the ropes for his last rope break. He ends up shoving PJ Black back into the corner. The referee is in the corner, so he turns his back. He doesn't take a bump or anything. But as the referee is, going to give the call for Brian Johnson's last rope break, Brian Johnson rakes the eyes, and he hits that unique neck breaker into like a cutter deal or face buster deal that was really, really, really cool. And so Brian Johnson gets a win, second win in the pure division. So it looks like they're going to be building up him and Josh Woods in the future. And speaking of promos, again, no highlights of Josh Woods winning, no promo from Josh Woods in this show. And he just won the belt, and it's almost like it's forgotten. He's like forgotten champion. Give the guy time to talk. If he's not a strong talker, and from what I've seen from Josh Woods, he's not. But I think he does good with the pre-tape stuff. Make a highlight video, let him throw some lines in there, edit it up and really feature him. So after the match, PJ Black, showed, even though Brian Johnson cheated, he still was impressed because that's, he did some tricks that he taught him, etc. So he won his respect and said he had his back. And, Brian Johnson's kind of a loner and just a trash talker. A lot of people can't stand him. So, PJ Black's, telling him that he still has his back and respects him. So that could, obviously lead to something in the future. And they shake hands. And what was very strange, I saw Brian Zane, ready for a post-match interview, and it's with Brian Johnson, and he literally had the same discussion they had inside the ring after the match. So I'm guessing maybe Hunter didn't like what they did, or didn't say exactly what he wanted, or didn't get the tone he wanted, so they redid it. I would have kind of maybe edited out after the match, maybe showed some kind of video without showing the handshake after the match, and just gone straight to this backstage promo. So you got to put something between it, maybe a highlight of next week's match, or a promo from Roxy, the new women's champion, or that video of Josh Woods I was explaining earlier. I think that would have been good there. It kind of would have been, they could have transitioned nicely into that backstage interview with Brian Zane and Brian Johnson. So overall, like I said, it was a good match, I guess, but they could have done more, and it could have been more. So thanks for listening, and thanks for checking out ROH. Appreciate it.